Ladies and gentlemen, friends, the title of this unit we are going to discuss is Human Resource Planning. This topic has been structured into 6 subheads. Number 1 is concept of human resources and human resource planning. The second heading is need for planning, types of planning. The third is organizational objectives and process of planning. The fourth heading is concept of demand and supply as well as forecasting techniques. The fifth one is the role of human resource planning, professional and barriers to human resource planning, and the last one is human resource planning in agriculture. Look at the concept of human resource and human resource planning. The human resource is the set of individuals who make up the workforce of an organization, or the individuals who work in an organization or in a business sector or in an economy. So human resource is the most important resource like any other resource, and the performance of an organization greatly depends on how we use the human resources. So if we see human resource planning, it is placing the right person for the right job. The simplest meaning of human resource planning is placing the right person for the right job. If you look at the classical definition of human resource planning, it is defined as the process of forecasting of an organization's future demand and supply of human resource for achieving the organizational objectives. It is nothing but placing the right people in right number at the right place is the concept. The procedures followed in human resource planning. The procedures normally followed in human resource planning are analyzing current manpower inventory, making the future manpower forecasts, developing employment programs, and designing the training programs. Now let us look at the procedure followed in human resource planning. There are 4 stages here. One is analyzing the current manpower inventory that is available in the organization, making the future forecasts, then developing employment programs and designing the training programs for the personnel. Now let us look at the need. What is the need for human resource planning in an organization? See, all said and done, there is an unemployment problem, but yet there are some skilled people required for some of the activities, like a graphic designer or an artist in an advertisement sector. Rapid changes in the technology and market and also the management requires new personnel. Then change in the organizational design and structures affecting the manpower demand also need for human resource planning. And also there is a change in the workforce, like in recent years the women are seeking employment, and therefore a lot of changes need to be made. Then the government policies in respect of the reservation, the labor and the working conditions are also very important factors. Therefore we need to consider human resource planning in an organization. And also the labor laws affecting the demand for supply and labor is also an important factor to be considered here while planning. If you look at the benefits of human resource planning, if there are any uncertainties likely to arise in an organization, that can be offset or overcome. This is one benefit. The second benefit is that it provides scope for developing the employees through training and appropriate capacity building activities. The third benefit is that it helps for formulation of budget requirement of an organization. The fourth benefit is that it can foresee the need for alternative employment if there is a need. Then also the fifth benefit, to foresee the changed attitude and work culture of the human resources and change the interpersonal management approaches. Then the sixth benefit is that to plan for working conditions in an organization. Supposing if there are more number of women workforce, should we go for the child care or the canteen or some such facilities. The other benefit is to develop a strategy for future recruitment of workforce, like the skills to be considered, the qualifications etc. need to be considered while recruiting for the next time. And also it helps to identify the sources of availability of human resources to meet the organizational needs. And lastly, it helps to design strategy to improve the human resource contributions in the form of increased productivity. Productivity enhancement is the most important factor that we look for. And there are different types of plans or within an organization while planning for human resources, so we will consider certain of the aspects like the philosophy of an organization. The next is the purpose for which the planning is to be done. The organization, certain groups may have certain responsibilities. Supposing we take the credit management group, the purpose of this credit management group is to accept the deposits and grant loans and also recoveries and things like that. And also while planning, the objectives of an organization need to be kept in mind. The strategies is another type of plan. The long term objectives of the organization need to be kept in mind while planning, and that is another type of plan that we contemplate while planning for the human resources. The next is plan is the policies. The policy of an organization. What is the policy? Is it policy is to render the quality or the total quality management or the price? The next plan is the procedure and the rules. Every organization will have the procedures and the rules. Focusing on the procedures and activities is another important type of plan that is looked into. The programs, various programs are in vogue in an organization. The plans are developed to implement the programs that are designed, and the budget. The plans focusing the budgetary provisions or the budget available, and also to forecast the requirement of the budget. It can be the cash budget or the sales budget or the capital expenditure. Then comes the organizational objectives and process of planning. This is the third unit, the sub-unit in the chapter. What are the steps that we need to follow while planning for the human resources? There are four main factors or the steps to be considered while human resource planning. The first one is the environmental considerations, the first factor or the first step. In this we have to give more importance for the external factors, which are outside to the organization. Mostly the legal environment or the legal framework, maybe the national laws, the state laws or the executive orders need to be kept in mind. This is one external factor. The second external factor is that the labor market. Availability of the skilled laborers or the unskilled personnel workforce available to the organization. Then the business environment, what kind of competition we have, the degree of competition. Then the speed of technological changes, every now and then we can see the change in the technology, and also the pay scales offered to the employees. Then the internal factors, internal or within the organization, these are the factors need to be considered while planning. The strategic business planning, then the human resource requirement, the projected staff needs, the number of openings, the type of jobs and time of recruitment, and all these things need to be kept in mind. This is the second important factor in the internal factors of the external, the environmental factors. Then operational planning is another factor to be considered among the environmental factors. The specific plans for growth, acquisition, diversification, then reconciliation of forecast and needs of availability and action plans. The third factor is the workforce demographics. The presently women are forming the large segment of the workforce in an agriculture and IT sector. Therefore, what facilities need to be considered for the changed workforce need to be kept in mind while planning. Then the technological aspects. The human resource requirements have come down from past due to the technological changes and mechanization. If you look at the bank, the manpower that was available in the bank in the previous years and the present day context, it is considered considerably reduced. This is due to the technological advancement. And also the organizational structure, is it bureaucratic or flat or democratic approaches is followed. And what kind of business strategy is adapted. Some organizations may adapt the quality aspects, some may consider about the cost aspects. So, some may consider both quality as well as the cost. Then the second major step in the human resource planning is, after a consideration to the environmental factors, they determine the future organization's needs. This is the second step. We can consider here the qualitative and quantitative needs. The qualitative needs are the bottom up are the forecasts. Considering the requirements at the ground level, we will consider the needs of an organization. If you look at the quantitative aspects, we consider two important items here. One is the ratio analysis, the other one is the regression analysis. Ratio analysis is nothing but of index of number of persons working and the workload. Supposing we want to recruit the staff for the training and development wing, how to consider the number of staff for the training and development wing? We will have to consider number of employees going to be recruited in 5 years time. Based on that, the staff number is fixed. This is the ratio analysis. If you look at the regression analysis, it is fixing an equation considering several factors like the employees demand, then revenues and level of automation, and all those things are fitted into an equation and worked out the requirement of the persons for the organization. Then the third step is determining the future organizational capabilities. That is labor demand forecast. What is the labor requirement and what is the supply of workforce, and then the gap analysis and action programming or the planning. Then the fourth step is control and evaluation. This is also another important step. Here indicate the responsibility for implementation of the planned activities and also the control mechanism within the system among the workforce. Here we have to establish reporting procedures, what kind of reports have to be prepared and submitted, and also the target number recruited against the target, and also employment cost also need to be considered while considering the evaluation or the factors. So these are the four steps involved in the human resource planning: the environmental factors, organizational needs, future needs, and the capabilities, and control and evaluation. Next is a concept of demand and supply and forecasting techniques. The demand, all of you know that demand is knowing how much workforce is required in an organization. Certain factors do play an important role to decide about the factors. The labor productivity, taxation structure, the training and career development, and savings are the ones which are to be considered while forecasting the demand. Then demand forecast is the process of estimating the future quality and quantity of people required in an organization. The process of forecast must be annual, must be based on the annual budget and the long-term organization plans, which are translated into activity levels for each function and department. Then supply is the ability to provide required number as well as the type of workers. This is to be considered based on the internal supply as well as the external supply within or outside the organization. The next is forecasting techniques, vary from simple to sophisticated technique, the managerial judgment, ratio, trend analysis, and Delphi techniques and flow models. These are the techniques used to assess the requirement of the workforce in an organization. The role of human resource persons and also the barriers in human resource planning. There are certain roles for the human resource professionals, that is administrative role, the strategic role, and then the specified roles. Then important barriers to human resource planning are, there are some barriers. Number one is that the experts in human resource are not the experts in management of the business, and also the conflict may exist between the short term and the long term human resource needs. The conflict between the quantitative and the qualitative approaches to the human resource planning, and non-involvement of the line or operating managers while making the human resource planning is another important barrier. Then if you look at the agriculture, while forecasting the requirement of the manpower, the area and number of agricultural holdings need to be kept in mind. The number of agricultural holdings classified, the type of machinery or equipment or the irrigation and the power supply that is available should be kept in mind while forecasting. The next is gross capital formation in agricultural machinery and equipment. The index of agricultural production, what should be the index? Then number of persons engaged and also the average earnings need to be kept in mind while forecasting the number. The marketing requirements and the government policies and programs for agricultural development activities and private sector initiatives in agricultural and allied sectors. Certain private people also involved in the agricultural development process. To sum up, human beings are considered as the resources due to their productive power. If you look at the definition of the human resource planning, it is the process of forecasting an organization's future demand and supply of human resources. Then planning has become an important activity in today's competitive business environment. Then manpower planning essentially makes projections of supply and demand manpower, and the human resource professionals have to perform various roles under three broad categories of administrative roles, strategic role and the specialized role. The necessity to boost the growth of agricultural sector, and due to entry of multinationals, there is a need for proper human resource planning in agriculture and allied sectors. Thank you very much, and probably you may have certain doubts in your mind, and you have to refer to the notes that has been given for the clarifications. Thank you.